According to Wildlife Conservation Trust, 10% of the waste produced on Earth is made up of plastic. Now, today is World Environmental Day, and we're looking at beating plastic pollution. How can you be a part of this? How can individuals and organizations get the word out with regards to beating plastic pollution? Today on the show, we have someone who's a lawyer and an environmentalist. He is the founder and project manager of Earth Plus. Earth Plus is an environmental sustainable organization committed to ensuring a clean world through an environmentally responsible citizenry and an environmentally responsive government. His name is Caleb Adebayo, and he's our guest today to talk to us on World Environment Day. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us, Caleb.
Thank you very much, Leila.
So you're a lawyer. Why did you pick a particular interest in the environment?
Okay, so while a student at Obafemi University, I had always been interested in the environment, and I decided to take environmental law as an elective. And in doing that, I was exposed to more of the problems with our environment, especially in Nigeria. While learning under Mrs. Fubara, one of the foremost people in environmental law in Nigeria, she showed us videos. She always showed us videos about what was happening in the Niger Delta, what was happening around us. And it made me even more concerned about it. So it was in my final year that I really got more interest, more vibe to pursue environmental law as a path in the legal profession.
That's amazing. Now, the African Development Bank has told us that around 100,000 marine animals are killed every single year when it comes to plastic pollution, just plastic pollution alone. And obviously this year's theme for World Environment Day is ending plastic pollution. How grave is this figure that we're looking at here?
It's very, very grave. It's really terrible. If you look at the numbers, like you said, to just paint a picture, around 1 million plastic bottles are purchased every minute around the world. 1 million every minute. And only 14% of these gets recycled. So the rest goes into landfills, oceans, and every other place that it can be. And they have the lifespan of more than 1,000 years, as long as that. So you could actually have a plastic that was used by your great-great-great-great-grandfather right now in the water. It's a big problem because it's not just killing marine life, it's also causing flooding all around Nigeria and across the world. So it is a major problem.
All right, so now you've mentioned that about 1 million plastic bags bottles are being every minute around the world.
Yes.
This is so sad because we're seeing that there's a great influx of plastic into our waters, into the seas, for our fishes, and there have been several policies that have been made around the world. Take, for example, this year, the World Environmental Day is being hosted in India. Tamil Nadu has already put out information stating that from the 1st of January 2019, they'll be banning the use of plastic products manufacturing and use in India, with a few exceptions, however. What policies do we need to put in place in Nigeria to ensure that we fight against this?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad you mentioned policies because, of course, I'm a lawyer and I'm very interested in policy making and how it can help to drive change. About 8 African countries or more have already either banned or put a tax on use of plastics in their country. I know Kenya was one of the most recent, and they banned plastic bags entirely. Nigeria needs to take this seriously. I feel like we haven't taken it seriously enough. I mean, if we can have Ethiopia, we can have Cameroon having these kind of taxes and these bans, then Nigeria can do the same. So we should put in place policies that say, okay, supermarkets, and we have a number of them in Nigeria, large supermarkets, use paper bags rather than plastic bags. Supermarkets or coffee shops, let's have people bring in their, I mean, at first it does not seem possible. At first it seems very, how can this even happen, for people to bring in their own cups or to have mugs, refill mugs, instead of having plastic cups for coffee. But it's something that would help us build a culture that would help us save the environment. So if we consider the environment an important resource to us, I think it's something that we should do in Nigeria. We should take very seriously. These policies must be put in place. NESRIA is one of the organizations, the agencies in Nigeria are supposed to enforce environmental standards.
I heard they're doing a walk today or something.
I think there are so many walks around. I was supposed to be at one at Ikeja. There are so many walks happening today, but it goes beyond walking. How are the agencies, how are they feeding the legislature with white papers, feeding them with drafts, feeding them with research to say, hey guys, we need a policy on this because this is what this is doing to our environment. It's beyond us going to meet a company and say, oh, you are polluting the environment. What are we doing? What policies do we have in place to say, okay, if you are producing plastics, then we are taxing you this high. So you are encouraged to do something else, to use the alternative. Or if you're producing, we're going to put a ban entirely on plastic, use and production of plastics. If we can do that, we are saving the environment, we are saving health-wise, because, I mean, plastic production has a lot of health implications as well. So health-wise, environment-wise, and we are just making our country to be a better place, somewhere that the world can look at as a leader in the sense of the word.
Absolutely. But Minister of State for Environment, that's Ibrahim Jibril, he said that currently the government has developed a strategy to phase out non-biodegradable plastics. Now, they want to do this by developing or establishing 26 plants, as well as the implementation of waste recycling programs. So how effective is that development?
Like every other thing, like most things in Nigeria, we have the proposition, the press, we have a media statement, and all of those fine things, and nothing ever really kicks off. So it's good if this thing eventually kicks off. We want to see these things happen. Recycling is already happening in Nigeria. A number of organizations are doing great stuff, doing recycling. It's not happening enough, though, because the amount of plastic we use in Nigeria is so much. I mean, with a 190, 200 million population, everybody, the guy on the street, it's very affordable. The guy on the street drinks Coke every day. And he's not drinking the Coke from the bottle that you reuse. He's drinking it from the plastic bottle. It's very affordable to use plastics. And so, I mean, you walk into an office and the normal thing is they have the refill water, but you use plastic cups. And for everybody that uses a plastic cup, I mean, I can drink water now and go and sit down and say, oh, I'm thirsty in 5 minutes, and take another cup and throw it away. And those plastics, most of them do not get recycled. So it's beyond saying we have a proposition to do this. I mean, the environmental space, there's been a lot of proposition even in energy, in oil and gas. So gas flaring, a lot of the gas flaring commercialization program, we have a lot of things being proposed. But when are they kicking off? How are they starting? We want to see them actually being implemented. If they are implemented, definitely it will be a fine one.
All right, so now let's look at the ways in which we as individuals can lend our voice to fighting against, the use of plastics as much as we do plastic pollution in general. There's an Indian artist who put up a stand. I don't know if we have the picture of, he used plastic bottles and he designed a turtle. And basically he wrote the message there beat against plastic pollution, fight against plastic pollution. And the message he was trying to get out across was the fact that a lot of our turtles, a lot of the sea animals eat up the plastic and it destroys them. And at the end of the day, we end up eating these things and it affects our bodies. So that was one way in which he was lending his voice. We've seen several other celebrities who go online, they have a plastic and they have another reusable option. So they say they're reusing this instead of this, and they use the hashtag, if you can't reuse it, refuse it. So what are the other ways in which we as Nigerians, we don't seem to have a lot of that. I don't think, I can't remember if we have enough celebrities, or if we have any celebrity actually lending their voice to speak against plastic pollution. So how can we as individuals join our voices? What are the things we can do, the little tips we can know, in order to fight plastic pollution?
Okay, I'll start with saying that environmental protection and advocacy is not as fashionable as so many other things. It's very fashionable to say, oh, I'm a girls' rights activist, so I'm activating for the, I mean, with no disrespect to those advocating for girls' rights, but it's not so fashionable to say environment, because the first question people ask you is, why would I concern myself about these things when there are people who have not eaten, what will I do? So I would say I'm not buying Coke again. People look at it as very distant from where they are, from who they are. They feel like, we can just keep its environment. It's not directly affecting us, but that's not true. Now, what we can do personally, first of all, I think by refusing to use what we cannot reuse. Personally, when I buy food from a restaurant, I try my best not to collect a plastic cutlery. I tell them no. I have my cutlery usually at the office. I have a normal metal spoon at the office. And so this is what I use. For some people, it will seem like, why are you? Just take it. It's one of the things they are giving you. It's part of your money. But for me, it's one step toward helping this thing not to happen. And then the idea is, let's avoid single-use plastic. So we use a plastic item, we use a plastic plate, and we finish eating. It's okay to wash the plate and use it for so many other things, to keep your crayfish, to keep your pepper, to buy food again. It's okay. But we have a culture that looks at things that you do not throw away as though, why can't you just throw it away? Are you that poor?
Or stingy to yourself.
Or stingy to yourself. It looks like a poverty thing. It looks like something that, oh, you are not a big man enough to throw it away. Oh, why can't you be keeping plastic that you have used? But we need to reorientate ourselves and tell ourselves that it is not the culture of poverty, it's the culture of sustainability to ensure that we live in a sustainable world. So reusing is very important. And then also avoiding situations where we have to constantly use plastic, even styrofoams. As much as we think styrofoams are really preferable, they also have their issues because they are also hard to degrade. So it's always important that we do all these things to make sure we can preserve the environment.
Absolutely. Now, it's also said that 83% of tap water in the globe today contains plastic. And obviously, plastic has direct effects on us as human beings. We're seeing higher rates of cancer these days, etc. But unfortunately, not enough people know how deep the effects of plastic are on us and on our bodies. Can you walk us through that?
Okay, so what happens is this. We have plastic go into the water bodies, which definitely is where some or all of our water comes from. And when in the water bodies, these plastics go through a process when they are being produced that involves a lot of chemicals, which is why I mentioned health effects at first. First, for those who work in those industries, they are directly exposed to negative health effects. So the plastics are produced and then we use them to drink water or whatever and then dispose them and they go into the oceans and the water bodies. And as they stay there, there is a decomposing process, but very slow. That's why I say it can take up to 500 to 1,000 years. But while it's happening, the chemicals are getting into the water. And the water is taking those chemicals. The marine life, they are dying as a result of that. The water is getting contaminated. And this water is what we eventually feeds into our water systems, and then we drink and everything. And so somehow we're affecting our health by using plastics. And it's been proven. So when we look at these things as something that is very far from us, to say, okay, how this bottle of Mirinda or whatever that I just took, how does it now come back to affect my health because it's a plastic bottle that I just disposed? But we should look at it as a process and the earth as one big ball in which everything is connected. If we do that, it's very easy for us to know that these are things we should work to prevent.
You mentioned earlier that talking about the environment is not so fashionable, and quite frankly, so we don't have a lot of information for people. So I think it's also very important to start from the grassroots. Our children, we need to teach them how to dispose of waste. We don't know how to actually separate our waste. Everybody just throws the bottle, organic food and everything into the bin. We don't know how to separate our waste. Now, you're also creating awareness with regards to World Environment Day and how people can beat plastic pollution. Tell us about it.
Okay, so what we're doing in my organization is, and we're doing this for the first time, I do not think any organization has done something like that in Nigeria. We looked at the World Conference of Parties, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of Parties. It happens every year. Last year was in Bonn, 2015 was in Paris, and then we have this year in Poland. And when we looked at it, we said, what happens there is the world leaders come together, delegates from all over the world, to talk about climate change, to say, how can we help the environment? How can we make our commitments to helping the environment? How can we negotiate a binding agreement? And then most of the things that happen there, people in our local communities don't understand. They don't see how it affects them. They don't care what goes on. So we decided, let's bring this knowledge and this practice to the schools so that the students can get to understand what happens at the COP by doing it themselves. So we're doing a COP simulation. We call it the Youth COP. It's happening on the 23rd of June. So what happens is that we are bringing these two schools together in some form of competition. But we brief them beforehand and say, oh, we are going to represent Nigeria, you China, you Ukraine, you Iran. And everybody sits down like delegates from countries. They would have read up on, and the theme
like a
is,
model United Nations.
Thank you very much, like a model United Nations. So the theme is ending plastic pollution. That's what they are going to be looking at. So everybody is saying, oh, these are our commitments. This is what we can do as Nigeria. This is what we can do as India. Then everybody, there's a caucus where they break out into and go to delegate, come back as blocks, the ECOWAS block, the EU bloc, and they are saying, okay, this is our position as EU. We can do this, do this, do this. And at the end, everybody comes together to get a resolution, a binding agreement to say, these are our suggestions. These are the things we want in the resolution. This is what we want to happen to end plastic or to reduce plastic pollution based on the money we have, based on our funding, based on everything. So it's just a way to help these students understand, of course, diplomacy and international relations, also to build their advocacy ability, their ability to negotiate, and then their understanding of global environmental issues and how it affects the very thing they do in their communities. So it's for them to be involved. That's the essence of what we're doing. We want them to be involved with bringing up solutions by themselves, not going out to source it, saying, okay, based on what we have read about Nigeria and this, I think this is what we can do based on our own local or municipal situation. This is what we can do.
Fantastic. I already feel like I'd love to be a part of this. It's very exciting.
You're giving me ideas.
So are these schools already fixed, or can people still apply for the schools to be part of this?
We're starting with 2 schools in Lagos and 2 in Abuja.
Oh, great.
We already have one of the schools, already agreed to it in Lagos. We are meeting one of the schools again later today. And hopefully they will agree because we have done a project in that school before. So we're starting with 2 because it's our pilot. Once we do it and it's successful, we intend to replicate it in various other schools in Nigeria, even beyond Lagos and Abuja.
Brilliant.
That's amazing. And how long exactly is the program? Is it just 1 session, or do you do multiple sessions?
So we're having, tomorrow, I'm going to one of the schools with my team for a we're going to talk with the students. The students we are picking for the youth COP, and then we'll explain to them what it's like and give them some materials. So that's like the pre-stage to help them prepare. Then on the 23rd, that's when we'll have the main session. It will be a full session, but it's just happening once.
That's brilliant. So for anybody out there listening and watching right now that wants to contact you for more information with regards to everything you're doing, or also more information on the environment as a whole, how can they reach you on social media? Okay,
so personal or my organization?
Both.
Okay, so my organization is www.facebook.com/EarthPlusAfrica. Earth Plus, EARTHPLUS, and Africa.
All right. Is that Plus Africa also on Instagram?
No, but we're on Twitter.
Okay, great.
At Earth Plus Africa.
You should join Instagram though as well.
Yeah.
Yes, true. I've been told that, so we'll do that.
Definitely.
Great. And your personal page?
Personal page, Caleb Adebayo on Facebook, and then on Instagram at barrister_Caleb.
Brilliant.
The lawyer thing.
Okay, so I just want to quickly read something. I stumbled on an article at budgetdumpster.com. It talks about 20 ways to reuse and recycle plastic bottles. 1, create recycled plastic bottle supply cups. So basically what they did was they cut the plastic bottles in half, and then they put the crayons and a lot of all that in there for your children. Awesome. Reuse coffee creamer containers for snack storage. So here I have a picture of a coffee creamer, but inside we have almonds inside. So you're done with the coffee creamer, don't throw it away. Wash it and put something else inside. Make a DIY plastic bottle planter. How many of us planted beans when we were in primary school? Yeah. I did.
Yeah,
you know, so definitely. You can use it as a plastic bottle planter. Upcycle laundry detergent bottles into a watering can. So you cut it into half and use the part that has the mouth of the bottle as a funnel. And turn a milk carton into a garden scooper. Start an herb garden with empty 2-liter bottles. Create a piggy bank made from reused plastic bottle. Upcycle a lotion bottle into a charging dock. Reuse honey beer bottles by making a lamp. This is actually a very pretty picture. Make a beach bucket from laundry detergent containers. There are more things you can use plastic bottles to do. What we're trying to say is to reduce plastic pollution. Think of one thing. Can you reuse this? And if you can't reuse it, then refuse it. When you go out to shop, as much as possible, there are little things you can do. Go from home with your own cart. You don't have to get a new plastic bag each time you go shopping. These things are difficult. They are not in our culture and our tradition, but there are little things we can do to prevent environmental pollution. More importantly, now that we are pushing more against climate change and global warming. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Caleb.
Wish you all the best with your event. We look forward to being a part of this sometime soon, and we wish you all the best with the children as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Caleb.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love am.